Welcome to CKLA Knowledge 4, Lesson 7, Amon-Ra and the Gods of Ancient Egypt. Our purpose for listening today is to review the features of ancient Egyptian civilization. We want to be able to explain the religious beliefs and practices of the ancient Egyptians. Listen carefully to understand the word depicted. Can you say depicted? We are spending time on the continent of Africa in the country of Egypt. Egypt is in the northeastern corner of Africa. Let's get ready to learn more about Egyptian life so very long ago. Let's travel back in time. Remember, we've already talked about the Nile River and how important it was for civilization, how it flooded and made it possible for crop growing. We learned about how the Egyptians would build cities along the Nile River and they used canals, just like the Mesopotamians, to move the water where they wanted it to go. Their form of writing is hieroglyphs. We learned all about hieroglyphs and how it is different than the Mesopotamians' form of writing, cuneiform. Listen carefully to find out what the ancient Egyptian gods looked like and what kind of things they did. In our previous lessons, we've learned about Merit and her family. In today's story, we're going to continue hearing about Merit and her mother as they learn about the ancient gods. The old stories from Egypt said that some of the gods and goddesses looked like specific animals the Egyptians saw around them in their own country, or a mixture of animals and human beings. For example, one common Egyptian bird was a small hawk called a falcon. The ancient Egyptians believed in a god named Horus, who was depicted as a man's body topped with the head of a falcon. Another of their gods, Sobek, was depicted with a human body but the head of a crocodile. There have always been real crocodiles living along the banks of the Nile River, and they are always hungry. They often try to catch and eat other animals. In the old days, people believed in Sobek, the god with a crocodile head, so they could pray to him to keep real crocodiles away. The Egyptians were careful to say nice things about him. See, we made a handsome statue of you, great Sobek, and we will leave meat and fish in front of the statue for you to eat, they would say. Another Egyptian god was depicted as a cat, another as a hippopotamus, and so on. Others looked completely human, but were still thought to have special powers. The ancient Egyptians' most important god had different names in different parts of Egypt. Some people called him Amon, and some called him Ra. Sometimes they put these together as Amon-Ra. There were all names for the Egyptian god of the sun, whom they said created everything, including many of the gods and goddesses. Let's listen as Merit's mother tells her a story about Amon-Ra, the Egyptian god of the sun, and what the ancient Egyptians believed about the creation of the world. Merit and her mother were washing clothes down at the edge of the Nile. Merit's mother said Amon-Ra started out by living inside a large, beautiful flower called a lotus. In those days, everything was covered with water, and the lotus flower was under the waves. Finally, Amon-Ra thought, it is time for this lotus to rise up out of the water and open its petals. And because he was so powerful, it happened. That's amazing, Mirit said. She turned to set some wet clothes on a large rock so the sun would dry them. Her mother replied, "You have not heard the most wonderful part." After the lotus blossom opened, Amon-Ra said, "Now I will make everything else in the world just by thinking about each thing and using my powers. I will think up other powerful gods and goddesses so I won't be lonely. I will make stars and planets, the sun and the moon, and the birds, fish, plants, and animals. And I will make the first human beings too." After he made everything, Amon-Ra picked up the sun and put it into a big boat. "The whole sun?" asked Mary. "Yes, Amon-Ra is very strong. He sailed his boat with the sun in it across the whole sky until he reached the other side. Then he rested and did it again the next day. He still does this every day, and when he rests, it is night." Mary thought this over and asked, "Why can't we see him on his boat?" "Maybe he and the boat are too far away up in the air. We can only see the bright sun shining from the back. Or perhaps the sun is so bright we cannot look carefully enough to see the boat. After all, you must not stare at the sun. That will hurt your eyes." Mary said, "Well, I am glad Amon-Ra made the sun, or we could not dry our laundry." And Mary's mother laughed. So let's think about this. What did Mary's mother's story about Amon-Ra explain? What did the story explain? Something that still happens every morning and night. Think about that with your teacher and your other classmates today. I can't wait to share another story with you. Come on back tomorrow.